Welcome to chess, ladies and gentlemen. All right, man, I appreciate you guys very much for stopping by. We do have day 2 going on of the St. Louis Rapid and Blitz. So I have the round 5 game between Alireza Firouzja and Wesley So coming at you. So all of my people coming from the Philippines, I will say mabuhay to you. Magandang umaga, magandang hapon. I appreciate you guys very much. Magandang araw. I appreciate you guys very much for stopping by. Anybody who is coming from France, I will say bonjour. Let me see. Bon petit déjeuner. If you're going to be eating breakfast, it's probably like afternoon there, though. It's a little bit late. But I appreciate you guys. Merci beaucoup, mes amis, for coming by and taking a look at my stuff. Anybody from Iran, I will say salam. Khayli mamnoon. I appreciate you guys very much for stopping by, man. But if you guys are ready to go, let's take a look and see what we got for this game, man. This is round 5. I don't think I mentioned that. I'm not sure if I did. But we got E4 best by test. We got E5. Knight comes to F3. And then we do see knight to F6. And this is the Petrov's defense, also known as the Russian game. We do see knight taking E5, D6. We got knight to F3. So we have all mainline stuff. And it has kind of some similar ideas to like Berlin type situations where, you know, knight's taking E4. You got D4. You know, you're hoping maybe at some point you can push D5 and really kind of strand this knight out there. But 99% of the time you see a D5 play by black. And then you do see bishop to D3. And you're just loading up on this knight's really beautiful position in the center of the board. So we do see bishop to F5. And this is a little bit rare than all the other mainline stuff. But I mean, it's definitely perfectly logical to play. We do see castles by white. We got bishop to E7. We got rook to E1. And you see that, like, I mean, white is just completely loading up on this knight. Every now and then you see people go like F5 and they really just try to like just cement this knight into the center of the board, but we do not see that. We got castles by black and knight B to D2, and it is this point where the pressure is a little bit too much. You don't have any knight B to D7, knight to F6 played, you know, really just kind of just like making sure this knight is there forever. So you kind of have to do something with it. You have kind of like 2 options. You can go knight to D6 or knight takes D2. You have some other stuff, but they're just not quite as good. So we do see knight to D6 in this position. We got knight down to F1. Obviously, what you want to do is you want to recapture this bishop takes with the queen takes. You definitely don't want to be doubling your pawns because that will pretty much wipe out your entire advantage. So bishop takes D3, queen takes D3. We got C6. Making sure that D5 is protected. We got bishop to F4, knight over to A6. We do see the move H4. And even if it looks a little bit strange at the beginning, like why am I just throwing this pawn out there because there's all this pressure? Well, the bishop and the queen have to hold this knight because of this bishop's position. So you wouldn't be seeing bishop taking and then queen taking and then hanging this knight. So don't worry about all of that. We do see knight to C7. We got knight up to G5. And Firouzja's like, Wesley, so just let me checkmate you, bro. But he says no. And so we see G6 going on. We see knight over to H2. And this is all standard stuff. Like we've seen this before. So we are not in the novelty as of yet. And then knight to F5 puts us into the novelty. It is just a really, really nice spot for the knight to be. And you are, you know, adding some pressure on some stuff here. So you're all good to go. We do see knight coming up to G4. You know, maybe if we can get rid of this knight somehow, you know, we can look at some of these possibilities and stuff like that. But that knight is super duper solid. We do see the move bishop to D6. And we have actually reached the point in the game that I have a guess the move portion. And I honestly don't believe not a single person is going to get this move. Unless you've seen the game and you're cheating. But if you want to pause the video and see what move Firouzja plays in this position, go ahead and do so. All right, man. So like I said, this it's a guarantee that I wouldn't have seen this move. It is a move. If you kind of mess with the computer kind of back and forth, it will actually suggest this move. But it is so insanely crazy. And we are past a novelty, so we're in completely unknown territory. Alireza Firouzja plays queen takes D5. And I already know. I know what you guys are like, wait a minute, what? How you playing queen takes D5? Like, is that even like legit? Actually, you get a lot of material back for it, but it's just really insane how somebody will go into this, though. And really, the follow-up after this move is really, like, worthy. I mean, you know, Firouzja does really play this pretty well. Wesley defends it pretty well. But anyways, we get into this position here where queen takes f5. And then pawn takes f5. And the absolute trade-off that you're getting is that you have freed up this h6 square. So you are going to be coming down, grabbing some material. So we do see that after knight goes to h6 with check. You have to go down because if you sidestep, I mean, knight going to knight taking f7 is going to be a fork with the king and the queen. So we don't want that. So the knight takes on f5 with check. The king goes to g6, and then we do see knight taking d6. And you have established a lot of material back for the loss of your queen, the sacrificing of your queen. We do see the move h5, and then this does allow white to capture another pawn. And so, I mean, white is actually doing pretty good. It shows just a touch of an advantage for black. Like, you see the bar, like it's barely in, you know, black's favor. So this is very legitimate, very crazy to play this way. We do see queen over to c8. We got knight down to c5. We got rook over to e8. Obviously, what black is wanting to do is white is somewhat down in material, and the strongest piece on the board for white is by far going to be these rooks. So you do kind of want to trade some of that strong material down so that the attack is not quite as strong. So we do see rook taking e8, knight taking d8, and then the rook goes over to e1. And you absolutely, as white, have to make sure that you're maintaining the control of this e-file. We do see queen down to f5. We got knight down to d3. Very highly purposeful move. Not only does it defend the bishop, but it does block the queen getting to that second rank and, you know, grabbing some pawns. Because that's absolutely what black wants to do, is start trying to grab some kind of material. We do see the move f6, and like I said, the follow-up for Firouzja playing this is kind of insane because, you know, I think a majority of people are going to be feeling the fact that they are down material. And, I mean, to make these in-between Zweizenzug moves are kind of crazy. Rook goes up to e7. This is like an immortal, like, rook on the 7th because you are sacrificing this knight, but not so fast. If you capture here thinking, hey, I'm going to get my material back, you would be in a really, really bad pickle after knight to e5 with check. The king would go to f6. You would see bishop taking g5 with check. And you can see that the king is actually checkmated in this position. So the queen absolutely has to give themselves up on g5. But instead of capturing queen immediately, you got rook to f7 with check. And then the king slides. And then you have this position. And you guys can count. Like, you are down 2 entire pawns, and you really have nothing to show for the position. So we do not see Wesley So go into that. After rook goes to e7, we actually see the defensive move knight to g7. You see rook over to f7. Now that is pinning the pawn down, and it is making knight to e5 check very live. So we do see a rook to g8. Bishop goes up to e5. Like I said, this pawn is absolutely pinned, so you are taking advantage of a lot of different things in the position. And not only that, but you have just freed this square for the knight, which you will see come into relevance. So the knight goes to e8. We see the move f3, and then we see the move queen to c8. And this actually allows white the idea that I just mentioned a second ago. It kind of seems like you're getting away from all the pins and things like that, but the king is in very, very dangerous waters, and he really doesn't have very many places to go. Knight goes to f4 with check, and this forces the king into this square because, you know, if you go ahead and decide that you want to go over here, that would be the end of the game. So we do not want to do that. So we do see king going to f5, and then we see knight taking h5. Now, there was, like, craziness in the position, but, I mean, it's... Like, Firouzja has already played really crazy by this point, and so, you know, to ask him to further play craziness is a lot, even for, you know, somebody as great as him. But the move in this position, instead of knight taking h5, was to just compound everything and really, really attack this pawn by going knight up to h7. And you have just put black in a position where they have to really defend. You can't defend like this, so the only move would be defending with queen to d8. So that's what you would see. You would see bishop taking f6, knight taking f6, rook taking f6, queen taking f6, knight taking f6, king taking f6. And then you would see knight taking h5 with check. And you are down the exchange with white, but look at all these pawns. You literally have 4 pawns more than the opponent. And even for a rook, these many pawns are way too much for a rook to deal with. And you really don't have any way to do anything on this side of the board. So that is really kind of all she wrote if this variation was played. But like I said, that variation was not played. So we saw the knight taking h5, which makes a lot of sense. I mean, you know, this pawn is still pinned at the moment. So, you know, but this does allow Wesley So to find an only move to try to stay like alive in the game. And that is rook taking g5. Basically, like you're just going to give up your exchange. You are up the queen. So, I mean, you can afford to kind of give away a little bit to try to just ease what you got going on. So the rook does take g5. You do see knight taking f6, king going up to g6. And then you do see rook to f8. And the unfortunate thing about this position is that this knight is absolutely pinned. And, I mean, this rook is also on pre. So you see the craziness that's going on. You do see rook to f5, rook takes e8, you got queen down to b7, and then you have, like, it's crazy how many saving moves Firouzja is able to find in this position, because black is definitely threatening to come and start collecting your pawns on the queen side. And so we see pawn to h5 with check first, the king goes over to f7, and then we do see rook to b8, and you see that the one problem that you had if you are black is pretty much, or if you are white, is pretty much solved now. So this is like, I mean, this is definitely one of the best games I've seen as far as when you sacrifice your queen, because I'm going to be honest with you, queen takes f5 was not even something that would have entered my mind in that position. So I probably would have just, like, I don't know, lost. I don't even know, man. It's like, I was really surprised when I seen that move. I was like, wow, bro. So we do see queen going to e7. We got the move h6. Past pawns must be pushed. You still do kind of have that dynamic, you know, with pawns and stuff like that over here. So similar to what we saw before. So, I mean, black is definitely not out of the water by any means. We do see a rook taking e5, pawn taking e5, queen taking e5. And then you do see a rook to f8 with check. And this is sneaky, bro. This is sneaky. Because obviously you cannot take here because, no. Yeah, that's not where you want to be at, because now you're just absolutely losing if you're black. So we did not see that. After rook went to f8, you know, Wesley So did say, hey, man, I don't want no part of that. So he did go to g6. We do see h7. And that pawn is getting dangerously close, homie. So we do see queen to e1, king to h2, queen to h4. And then we see a repetition like so. And the players have drawn by threefold repetition. So even though this game is a draw, it was by no means like the draw that you would expect to see. So these are definitely the types of draws that I like showing on this channel, man. But I appreciate you guys very much for stopping by. Merming salamat king maka ibigan. Hailey mamnoon. Merci beaucoup. And I'll see you guys next time.